I would like to introduce Jacquline and Chris Laurita. They are autism advocates, and some of you might know them from the reality show Real Housewives of New Jersey on Bravo. They are here talking to us about their son and their journey. Welcome. Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I am, really excited to talk to you guys because you guys are in the public eye for the most part, and I know a lot of people have come to us because you're one of our ambassadors for the Autism Hope Alliance and said, how do they do it? How do they manage everything? It's hard enough, for somebody that's not in the public eye to do that. And so that's some of the things we're going to be talking about today. How do you guys balance it all? But before we do, how did you feel when you first got the diagnosis?
I know for me, I remember feeling a little lost. Sad, scared. I was fearful of the future. I was worried my son may never be able to live independently. I didn't know a whole lot about autism at the time, and just not knowing where to go, who to turn to, what path to take, just, a lot of feeling lost and wanting to reach out for help.
And how old was he when he got diagnosed? And what did he look like at that time?
He was about 18 and a half months to 2.5 years of the regression, but he was diagnosed right before the age of 3. And at first it was a gradual decline, and I think we missed some of the cues in the beginning when that was happening. Next in the background. Wait, hold on 1 second. You might want to edit that. Hold on. Let me just check on him 1 second because he's calling my name. I'm so sorry.
No, this is real life. All the people listening right now, they have their son. They're trying to balance. They're trying to do this interview, and so this is real life. So it's totally great.
He's saying it so clear. He's like, I want money. My husband just went to go. Yeah. So in the beginning, I think that the decline was so gradual that we missed a lot of the cues that were happening. Or maybe we weren't ready to accept that there was a need for concern at first because it was so gradual. But it came to a point where we couldn't ignore the signs anymore. So for us, when he was showing the most signs and symptoms, I guess you could say, he wouldn't answer to his name. He couldn't follow a simple command. He wouldn't follow my finger if I pointed to an object. He rarely made eye contact. He stopped acknowledging people in a room. He stopped using his words, stopped singing. He started babbling. He would make this long E sound and cover his ears. He stopped using his utensils. He quit riding his tricycle. He played inappropriately with his toys, lining them up, stacking them, but he would focus. It was like he had selective hearing because he would ignore when I would call him, but then if he heard something on the TV, he would go running, and he would focus intensely on things that were his interests, like TV credits or iPad games. He seemed sensitive to light. He was spinning, going upside down a lot. He couldn't really walk down the stairs standing up like a typical child until he was about 3 years old. He had trouble sleeping. He was babbling, giggling, bashing around. I'd put him down at 8. He'd be up till 2. He either was constipated or he had diarrhea, and he just seemed really tuned out to us. And that was when, someone had led us to the MCHATs, the Modified Checklist for Autism in Toddlers, and they had those 23 questions that you ask yourself to see if there's need for concern. And I think that was the aha moment for Chris and I. When we answered those questions, then we saw the signs and symptom checklist that somebody had led us to, and that's when we knew that it was definitely autism.
And what were you told by the doctors at that time?
We had to wait 3 months to get a diagnosis. So in the meantime, because we didn't want to waste time, we had gone we were led to a biomedical doctor, which really gave us hope. But when we got the diagnosis from the developmental pediatrician, we sort of felt defeated a little bit. They didn't give us, I guess at the time, they weren't doing, before it was Asperger's, PGD-NOS, it's autism, different things under the umbrella. They were just putting it under one.
They were just saying ASD.
One disorder. Yeah, they just said he has autism. That's it. There was no other name for it. They just said everything is she has autism. They didn't give us any other diagnosis.
What was the prognosis? What did they say that he might be able to do, or he wasn't most likely going to be able to do?
Yeah, they said they really didn't know. They said he may never talk. He may never live independently. He may never acquire the skills. He may or may not. They suggested hippotherapy and just sort of, go get him some therapy. You might need therapy to cope with it. And that was really all that they left us with. We went from feeling really hopeful and great to feeling scared all of a sudden. He's like, it's different when you suspect your child has autism, but when you hear the diagnosis, it's really overwhelming, and it hits hard. It was really painful for us, and it was scary because you don't know what to do next. That's how we felt, and for us, we decided to seek help within the autism. We wanted to talk to people that have been through it, that have had success with their child, that we could get guidance and hope and, help to keep us positive and believing that our son could get better. That's what we wanted. And so that's when we just really started reaching out to people in the community for help.
Well, and I understand what you're talking about when you're talking about, getting the diagnosis. I know for me it was like kind of bittersweet. Like I knew something was wrong. I kept thinking it was autism. And when I finally heard the words autism, it was like, okay, I'm validated not thinking I'm crazy. However, I really wish I was crazy because I wish I was wrong. That's how I felt.
Yes, that's true because you're like, oh, there's finally a name to this, so I can put together a plan now. Now that I know exactly what this is, I can figure out exactly what he needs. I need to get him all the tools he needs in order to thrive. So it's like, okay, now I got to get to work.
Absolutely. Now where is he now, and how old is he now, and how far has he come?
So now he is. He'll be in June. He'll be 7. So it's been almost 4 years now since his diagnosis. Now, we have lots of hope now because he went from having no language to he can pretty much label anything in a room. He can ask for all of his and I want sentences. He is understanding yes and no. He can eat with his utensils. He can ride a bike again. He reads really well. He spells really well. He Googles things all day long. He's saying more and more, and he's very much engaged and better eye contact. He greets people. He's not, he doesn't have conversations with you yet, but in his way he does. He's starting to. So because he's come this far, I just know it's coming. So I'm just sort of waiting for that. But he definitely engages with us a lot. And, he can definitely ask for his needs and things that he couldn't do before. So, and I think, there's a lot of things that contribute to that. And you help me a lot too. I hope you know that. With the diet and supplements and things like that, really, I feel makes a big difference with him, along with his therapies, because that was one of our first goals with Nick, was to get him the healthiest he could be from the inside out so he would respond better to his therapy. Because that was one of the things in the beginning that I felt like I could control. Let's eliminate all the toxins in his environment and what we're putting on his hair, his skin, and what he's eating, and the supplements he's taking in for whatever he's lacking or not making, his body isn't producing enough of. And, when we changed some of those things, we started to see a lot of positive changes in that. And that was really hopeful. And so that along, with him having more clarity, and more engagement, he was able to respond better to ABA and all the other therapies that he had, the hyperbaric chamber, the, speech and language and music therapy, all the things that we were doing with him. I felt like the diet helped him with that, with better focus.
So, you mentioned a lot of different things, and I know our kids are a very unique puzzle, and they all have different pieces. Do you feel that, one thing helps a little bit more, or do you kind of just think it's a combination of stuff?
I think it's a combination of things, and I know that's so true. And you say, because every child is different. I mean, there's things that I've heard other people do. They swear that changed their child's life, a complete turnaround, and then all like, oh, I'm getting that too. And then you do something, and then you're like, well, he's not really responding to that. Why did it work for them, not my child? And you learn after a while not to get discouraged. You just try it a little bit. If it's not working for your child, try something else. And you just have to have patience and try to find that formula that works best for your child. And I think you do that by, really getting to know your child and studying your child and realizing what their strengths are and what their challenges are and what their interests are. And then you just sort of build on those. Like Nick had, poor muscle tone and his coordination wasn't that great. And we put him in gymnastics and we saw strength. He was able to finally, do a lot of things that he wasn't doing before. And I think that helped. And he had an interest in music. So we put him in music therapy and he responds really well to that. Hyperbaric for Nick, I mean, that's done wonders, with the supplements and, just being able to get oxygen to places his body that it normally would be able to get to, with reducing inflammation in the body and allowing the supplements to get to his brain. Maybe that helped too. I mean, and then you have, school and you have the structure there and the ABA for compliance. I think it really all works together. There's so much you can do, and it's just it's all trial and error, with your child. Just kind of follow what's working and what's not working.
Absolutely. And I think you hit it perfectly when you said, we tried things, and if it didn't work, well, it didn't work. And, it was just another thing we tried. And I think a lot of parents get discouraged because they will hear something at a conference or they'll read something on a blog. And I've done this myself. I still do this. I'll read it and I'll go, oh, I have to get that. And then I get that, whatever the thing is. And I'm like, well, this person's kid drove or went to college like 2 times after they did this. And I'm just trying to get my kid to read a whole book, and I think, well, gosh, why didn't it work for me?
Right,
and so you can totally get discouraged. But if you basically, how I seem to look, and maybe you feel the same way, I look at it as, if it doesn't hurt our kids, I'll definitely try it. And sometimes it's not meant for me to try it in that chapter of wherever my son's at. But then what I've learned is that later on I can revisit it, and sometimes I see a little bit more progress. It might be a year or 2 from that moment, but sometimes you can revisit things and say, oh, well, maybe they just weren't ready for it yet, and maybe they're ready for it now. Have you had any experience with that?
I haven't yet, but now I think I'm going to reorder that camel milk.
That's so funny. And I think there's just so many different options nowadays. And I think that for families out there, and especially if you're a new family listening, there are just so many options, and think of it as a menu that you can say, well, maybe I can try this and maybe I can try that. And, I remember in the beginning, I just threw everything at my son, and I think I drove my son crazy and I drove myself crazy, and I could not figure out what was working. Did you do any of that and then later take a kind of a step back and say, okay, let me try one thing at a time, or what was your experience with that?
I think I tried to, the supplements. I was doing a lot of supplements. And then I cut back a little bit on some of the ones that I was giving him. But, it's a lot of, we've been pretty good, I think, with the therapies that we picked with him. I don't know. It's a hard one. I don't know how to answer that.
I just think for families out there, just to know that, they're just, every kiddo is different. So just because you read one thing or you hear one thing, even if you hear one thing on the summit and you go, oh, let me try that, and it didn't work, doesn't mean that there's something else that won't work, and just to try not give up, because, again, more and more is coming out, and that's what's great about our community is everybody shares. So I think that's
huge.
great of all the things you guys have done. So now what?
I think that's. I was going to say that's so important for everyone to share, because that's where we're gaining knowledge from each other and sharing resources and trying to figure out this puzzle. Trying to we're all kind of paving our own path, but we're taking advice and knowledge and information and support from others, and I just think it's so important to keep sharing that and keep reaching out and keep trying things. And the diet too. I think sometimes people give up on the diet too easily, because it's one of those things you got to do at 100%, and it's really hard at first, and then once you get in the swing of it, it becomes easier. And sometimes the behaviors get worse before they get better, so people might give up too soon. But I've just seen a lot. If it's done correctly with diet and supplementation and things, I think that it is very helpful, at least for Nicholas. But I think it's important.
And you mentioned that you're working with a doctor too. That's a biomedical doctor that I think a lot of families out there working with, whether it be a nutritionist that's really specialized in autism, or a biomedical doctor, or Google is so helpful today.
Yeah, I know it can get expensive. A lot of therapies are so expensive, and sometimes if you do your own research and ask around, you can kind of piece it together.
Yeah, with Facebook and different groups out there with moms. Right. Moms, I feel like, have been some of my biggest helps. I learned so much from different mom groups, and I've been in this community now. Goodness, I think going on 11 and a half years, and
wow.
It's changing all the time. My son just turned 14 last week, and it's just crazy to me that, how much has changed in the last decade from when I was first learning, and even from when you first started learning. There's so many different things that have changed. So I think the biggest message that, I'm hearing you say is don't be discouraged, and to keep on looking for different things when you're looking at what's helped the most and different things like that. Now, how do you keep your family going so strong? Especially, you guys have crazy schedules, and Chris owns multiple businesses. You guys are on Bravo. You have, more than one child, and there's so much is going on in your life. How do you guys keep your family going strong and hold each other up?
I think that a lot of it is we communicate a lot as a family, and we talk and we give each other breaks and downtime, and we make sure we have our date nights, and then we have our couples nights also, because sometimes if you go on a date with your husband, sometimes you could lead back to the kids. But if you go out with other couples, they never want to talk about your kids, so it kind of takes you out of that, and then you can have a good laugh and a good time, and then we do things as a family, and we celebrate things as a family. And as a couple, I think that because in the beginning, when I realized when I accepted that Nick there was need for concern, my husband, we weren't on the same page at the time. He was still in denial when I had come to terms with it. So once we both accepted and embraced this journey we're on together, I think that's when we made it our common goal to get Nicholas everything that he needed and to help bring out the best child that our child can be. And we wanted to help as many families as we could along the way. We go to conferences together. We do public speaking together. And it's sort of like our time together when we go do speaking engagements. It's like a 1 or 2 day trip. We'll go. We have a night together alone. We'll, give our speech. So we're learning. We meet other families that are going through it, other people. We always bring back knowledge from any place we go. And then we have a little time to ourselves too, which is great. And so we take time together, and then we allow ourselves to have time alone also. So we'll take breaks. It's like, Tag, I'm burnt out. Your turn. We give each other breaks, time for ourselves, and we have time together too. So it's just finding, if Nicholas is in therapy for an hour or two, then I have time to spend with my other son one-on-one, or like their spring breaks were separate weeks, so it gave time, sometimes we'll do things just with my older son, CJ. And they're older too. They're older, so they understand, and they're very patient and loving, and it helps, But the age difference, I think, too, the maturity level of my kids. My daughter's 25, my other son's 13, going to be 14. So, Chris, what about you?
Well, as far as keeping the family strong, I just think that, speaking for myself, I've been conditioned that way since I'm a child. I grew up with 10 brothers and sisters, and we were always taught from a very young age that life has challenges, and when you're faced with challenges, you just got to barrel through it and stay strong, and you'll get through it. And for me, it's like that, not only in my personal life or my family life, but also in business. Every day there are challenges, and I always say, you could spend your whole life focused on the problem and never come up with any solutions. I like to say I spend my time focused on the solutions because there's a solution to every problem. So for me, there is no other option. When life gives you challenges, just focus on the solution, stay strong, and you'll get the best results with that attitude. That's the attitude I always use every day. So, like I said, the other thing is, like I said, we don't. I never look at. I don't never feel sorry for myself or any situation that's going on. I always just accept it and face it and show me the wall, I'll run through it, kind of that.
Now, as a dad and a husband, Chris, what's been your biggest challenges as a husband and a father? I know so many dads out there. It's kind of a scary thing, and I'm not a father, so I can't really relate to that. But just from what I've heard from dads, they picture their child, either if it's a boy as a football player, or if it's a girl, they're thinking of them as a little princess, and then all of a sudden autism hits, and a lot of dads don't really know how to kind of pick up the pieces. And so sometimes they kind of just mentally check out or even sometimes leave. What's been your biggest challenge, and what advice can you give to these husbands and dads out there?
Well, for me, when we first had Nicholas, he was like a blessing for us because we had 5 miscarriages before we had Nick. And we were so happy that we were bringing him into the world. And, he was another boy, which, I loved having another boy. And, you always think that your child or your son is going to grow up to be a great businessman or, a great golfer or a great ball player or whatever. And then, when autism hit, it was devastating for me, only because I didn't know much about it at the time. And I had no idea what the future looked like for him. And, of course, that made me very sad and very concerned. And, like I always tell people, when you have a child, you always think that you're going to teach them everything. You're going to teach them about the world, and they're going to learn so much from you. But when it comes to Nicholas, like, I've learned so much from him. And, he taught me how to be a better person without saying a word. He taught me, how to be stronger without saying a word. So, I always tell other dads when I meet them that, look, this was the hand we were dealt. It's not a death sentence, okay? It's a situation that, we as fathers and as husbands have to be strong. We have to be the rock. And, that's not always the case because, sometimes you fall and sometimes you get upset and all that. But you have to pick yourself back up. And your child, although they may be nonverbal, they hear you, and they're looking up at you, and they're looking for you to be their voice. They're looking for you to be their rock. That, you have to understand that the child does know, he understands what's going on, and you have to set an example for him. And that's been my, feeling from the very beginning, is that, I'll never break. I may, have a moment from here and there where I get upset, and that's sad for me, but I'll never break, and I have to be the warrior that, my son is hoping I will be, or looks up to me to be. But it's my only advice to other dads would be to stay strong, continue to fight for your child, and also, I've learned a lot about, patience and being really super patient, especially I remember the days when I used to go travel. I traveled all over the world, and I'd be on an airplane, and there'd be a kid, somewhere on the plane, acting up and crying and all that. And I used to get annoyed and say, oh, why don't that kid just, stop crying or whatever. But now it's well, maybe there is an issue, you know what I mean? And it's taught me to be a lot more understanding, a lot more patient. And I try and pass that on to as many people as I can. And, it's funny because some of the people that I travel with will be on an airplane, and they'll say, oh, I wish that kid would just shut up already. And I'd be like, you know what? There may be an issue with him. You know what I mean? You don't know what's going on. I'm sure it's harder for the parents than it is for us to be sitting here listening to it. You know what I mean? So just understand that have some compassion, and like I said, the only advice I can give is just be the warrior that we need to be for our children.
I want to add too, as far as a lot of dads and just in general parents, you feel that your child's going to miss out on the childhood that you feel they deserve, doing all the things that you enjoy doing as a child, or that you wanted to see them doing as a child. But what you have to really realize is that most likely your child is enjoying his childhood. He just has different interests than you have. And, it's different. It's not less than that they are happy. And and really, what does every parent want? You want your child to be happy. And, I look at Nicholas, and he is happy. He is a happy child. He is enjoying his childhood. He enjoys his interests. They're different, but they're just as wonderful to him, and that makes me happy, knowing that he's happy. And it's just finding those interests that they're good at or that they enjoy, and just build on those, put your energy into helping them grow that, and find the joy in those little things, in those little moments. Because sometimes I feel we're actually very blessed as parents, because we enjoy things, we celebrate things that parents of typical kids often take for granted. There's little things all the time that he does that, even the first time he said bye to me when he went into school, I called my husband crying. I'm like, he said bye to me. There's things like people aren't getting those little joy moments, and you really have to set those moments up. And so many times I look at him and he just makes me so happy, and you have to appreciate those moments and those things and be grateful that you have that, It's a different journey than what you expected, but it doesn't mean it's less of a journey. It's everybody's got challenges in life. Everybody's journey is different. Everybody's got at least one area of their life that they're struggling with in some way. So you can't wish you had someone else's life or someone else's challenges, because every challenge is hard for that person, So just accept what challenges that are given to you and learn to grow and evolve from it. Learn whatever you can from it, pass that knowledge on to someone else, and keep going, and try to enjoy those moments instead of,
I think that's great advice. So sometimes the smallest victories really are the biggest victories for our kids, because we were told that it may never happen. So
that's right.
Absolutely, I can when I'm picturing him saying goodbye to you, and it's like I can feel for you as that's happening, because the same with my son. Those little things are really huge things, and I'm always like, did anyone else see that? Did anyone else see that? Oh my gosh, that was so exciting. I feel like the 5 o'clock news should be talking about it. My kid said goodbye, or my kid said I love you. Like, don't you know how big of a deal that is?
There's times where I've gotten, you get discouraged because they'll hit a plateau and you don't see a lot of improvement for a while, and you're like, why isn't he doing anything lately new? Or, you kind of get concerned, but then it's like the progress, sometimes it takes a while. But if I look back to where we were 4 years ago, he has come leaps and bounds from where he started, so he is making progress. So I don't want parents to give up and think, there's no hope. And they're always capable of learning, always. Sometimes it's at a slower pace, but it is happening. And keep a journal, like you'll see it, keep a journal of it. And every time they do something wonderful or new, like write it down, and you'll see how much progress it's made. And it is happening. And so just keep moving forward.
Now, since autism obviously is a big part of anybody's life that has a child with autism, it really is the center of attention often. Do you have any challenges as a mom and a wife that you kind of struggle with and you've either overcome or you're still working on?
As far as potty training, is that what you mean?
Yeah, well, challenges as a mom, like things that have come up as because you're a mom not just to your special needs child, you're a mom to your other children as well. So is there that balance? And then also as a wife, like how do you still feel like a woman? Like the wife that your husband married. I mean, I know as women we have many challenges.
Yes, and that's one thing I'll say. The first year, I was so obsessed with researching any and all things related to autism, just getting all my notebooks, and I was so focused on that I started to lose the things that I was passionate about before the diagnosis. And I think it's so important for moms or, dads, whoever, to also allow yourself to have the time. You have to, time block it in to do the things that you're still passionate about. Besides, you always got to do whatever you can for your child, but it's so important to take that time for yourself and do those things that you love doing and things that make you feel good. And that's why it's so important to, continue to like my husband and I would always say, like you with each other, sometimes you have to stop and then go back to if I just met him, how would I be treating him? How would I be talking to him? What would I be doing for him if I had just met him? And he does the same thing for me. But someone gave him advice one time about, you basically act like you haven't gotten in their pants yet. What would you be doing to impress her?
That's
and
awesome.
You have to remember those, and then you have to take the time to do those things, Like when I hurry up to get, put some makeup on for my husband before he comes home. Let me look a little more presentable for him. Let me, do this for him. Let's make sure we go on a date or go out with other couples and have some laughs, or have just people over at the house after our son goes to bed, and we'll just like last night we turned the music up. We had our friends over. We were having a blast, acting like college kids. I don't know, but it was fun. You need those releases, and you got to line up those people that you can trust to take care of your child, even if it's for an hour. Take a bubble bath, whatever it is that you enjoy. Put on some positive affirmations and grab a glass of champagne, sit in the bathtub, whatever. Listen to some music. You have to have those times to yourself, because that's going to make you stronger, and you're going to go back in and fight harder because you feel you've done something for yourself, and that is so important. And I feel like the first year I cried a lot. I was so it's so easy to dive in, head first with all that, and you forget yourself. I think you need to find a balance where you're still doing that, but you're still making time for yourself and doing if it's reading, go sit somewhere and read it outside, get some fresh air. Have those little breaks, tag, you're at 15 minutes, I need 15 minutes to myself, anything.
Absolutely.
I think that's so important.
I like your idea of the champagne and bubble bath. Usually my escape is Target, but your idea of the bubble bath and champagne is much nicer probably than Target. I love it. I think it's so important for all the families listening. Now, I don't have more than one child, so, I'm always amazed on how people do it with more than one child, so how is it affecting the siblings? How do you guys balance that? One, how do you balance it, Chris, and then how do you balance it, Jacqueline?
For me, like I said, my kids are older. My daughter's 25, and she does her own thing. My son CJ, there's lots of times where we just spend with him, without Nicholas, and there's things we do together. If Nick's in therapy, I can spend some time with CJ, or, sometimes we'll go out now. CJ's older, so we take him out with us, and we leave Nick home with a babysitter. And then, of course, there's always time that you spend as a family, too, but you just have to remember, get them involved, because then they feel it's good for them to be involved in your child's life also. And then it is important to take the time alone with them, too. But I'll let Chris say.
It really comes down to, CJ, because he's younger, and like Jacqueline said, Ashley's 25 now, but, CJ will be 14 in May, but we always make him feel like, he's the big brother, and make him realize and teach him that how important it is for him to understand, what autism is. And, he does a very good job with his friends when they come over and explaining to them that, his brother has autism, and his friends really go out of their way for Nick and make him feel really special. They understand what autism is because, CJ explained it to him. And we're very, very proud of CJ and the young man that he's becoming. And he plays a very big part in Nick's life. And we always make sure that we go out of our way with CJ to show him lots of love and appreciation for, being the great big brother that he is. So, we always make sure that he understands.
You do a lot of one-on-one stuff with CJ too. You guys do your guy thing.
Yeah, we'll go golfing together, or we'll go for a drive, or whatever. We do a lot of stuff together.
Yeah.
Now, what steps do you both recommend for families out there to first start? And we can start with whomever wants to go first.
I think going for walks is always nice, like a nature walk, just being outside, anything outdoorsy like that is always nice, just to get the energy. You can run, you can walk, hike, outdoors is always great. Bowling, depending on...
Talking about First Start for...
Oh, First Start for...
Nelson?
Oh, I'm sorry. What
yeah. So no, but I liked all those suggestions as families. But yeah. So but what steps do you recommend for for families out there to first start when they first get the diagnosis?
Oh, okay. So I think for first time, well, besides educating yourself on autism in general, learning your child's rights, because that's important to know, what they're what they can get, help they can get through the state. I always say cleaning up your child's diet, do the things that you can control, getting them healthy, eliminating toxins from their environment, going green with your cleaning supplies and toiletries and cookware and things like that. And that way they'll respond really good to their therapies. And then I always say look help within the autism community, because there's so many people there willing to help and give you guidance and support and resources, and And I would reach out to the people that have had success with their children and just see what they did, you know. And I guess, you know, help within the community. There's so many great organizations like yours that are very helpful and you know, educating you. And I think that get involved. Go to the fundraisers, the conferences, where you'll learn so much, and you meet other families like you know, that are going through the same struggles that you can relate to. And like I said, I don't think there's ever been a conference that we've been to where we haven't met somebody, learned something new, and you just don't feel as alone. You know, there's help, there's support out there, and there's so much to learn. So, you know, just get involved. I think it's important, and
that's great.
And spread the word.
Absolutely. Now, what's your advice, Chris, for especially dads out there listening? You know, what do you recommend for them to, when they're thinking about family, you know, their families, and where do they first start?
Well, I think you know, jump in with both feet. You know, and there's an amazing amount of information on the internet, so you could spend you know, an enormous amount of time just, you know, reading other people's stories, watching videos. I learn a lot from just doing research on the internet, so I would definitely recommend that. And like Jacqueline said, you know, going to the conferences, we've met some great people, made some great friends, learned so much from other families, and, you know, whether their child is older or, you know, is gone mainstream, and, you know, it gives you hope. You know what I mean? And when you hear other people's success stories, you get more motivated, you know, and you get a lot more involved. You know, you start to feel really good about some of the new therapies and, you know, maybe some treatments that are out there. So, you know, we definitely, I definitely think that just do a ton of research, spend a lot of time with other families, talking to them on the phone, going to conferences, all that, and just be as supportive as you can possibly be for your entire family. You know, especially like for me and Jacqueline. You know, Jacqueline was the one who did most of the research, and I was just, you know, I had her back the whole way. You know, I was very, very supportive in everything that she was doing, although there was times that I thought she was really going out of control with her binders and everything, but she's an information junkie, you know, so like I said, just jump in with both feet, and there's a lot of information out there. Just learn.
Yeah, that's one way I coped, by researching and organizing all the information into binders from, you know, therapists, therapies, supplements, whatever it was. Organizations, I have a different binder for literally everything. And I felt that was how I coped, because it made me feel like that was the one thing I could control.
Yeah, you were doing something.
Yeah, I felt, you know, proactive. So that helps me. That's one of the ways that I coped with it. But yeah, I just think, you know, get out there.
I love that. Now, what is one thing you guys both want people to know about your family? And we can start with whoever wants to start. But what's one thing you want people to know specifically about your family? Because a lot of times people think, oh, you know, they're on television, they have it so much easier, they must have, you know, 10 nannies and tons of cooks and this, that, and the other. And people have, like, perception of that, you know, kind of thing. You know, so what's something that you want people to know about you guys?
No nanny. Our family is just like many others. We struggle at times, we cry, we get upset, we turn to others for strength, for help, for resources, for guidance. We share our joy. We celebrate our child's accomplishments. We'll never give up, and we'll always do whatever we can to help others in the community. But no, it hasn't always been easy for us. Chris, you want
to? Besides me being the best looking one in the family, no, you know, we're just like everyone else. You know, we're on TV. Yeah, we get a lot of publicity and all that, but That's the reason why we decided to share our story with people, with the viewers, because it's so important to do our part to raise awareness. So a lot of people say, oh, you put your child on TV, you sold your child for, for TV purposes. And that's complete opposite of why we did it. We did it because we wanted to help educate other families out there and do whatever we could and everything we could to help them. And this was a great platform to do it. So we did it, and we're very proud of that decision. So, like Jacqueline said earlier in the conversation, we do a lot of public speaking, and, we try and answer every question that we get, whether it be on social media or email. But, for us, we're determined to not only share our journey and the information and the things that we've learned, but we plan on giving, and we do give, like through my company, a snack company I just launched, we're giving a portion of the proceeds back to the autism community, and we'll continue to do that for the rest of our lives. So we're very, very dedicated to helping as many people as we possibly can. And that's what I guess I would want people to know.
Yeah, it's just sharing your journey. I know hearing other people's journeys has helped me tremendously. So if that's the one thing I can do, then I want to do that for someone else.
Well, and I know, from when I first met you guys, I mean, you just seem like just normal, nice people. Like, people ask me, like, are they snobby, or are they this? I'm like, no, they're totally cool. They're just nice. They're, they want to help families. They, and what I love about when I see you guys at conferences, sometimes you see speakers, they kind of, they're not accessible to the families, and really the families are going there to talk to the speakers. And the old days, like, it was like the speakers would be at all the dinners, and you could just talk to everybody, and everybody just learned from each other. And every time I see you guys at conferences, I never see you guys, standoffish to anybody. You're like, people come up to you and ask you questions, and you're just so giving and just so, generous with your time, and you're learning just like they're learning, and you all learn from each other. And I love that about you guys. You guys are just it's very genuine, and I think that's something, just from my experience with you guys, hopefully families, if you guys ever get a chance to go to a conference or a talk where you guys are, where they're speaking, hopefully you guys can to go see them, because they really are very genuine, and you guys do a lot for the community, especially the fact, you've only been in the community for a little over 4 years, and, you guys both just jumped into the deep end, I think. You jumped right in head first, and you guys have been, treading water, and you're learning, and you're helping, and so, thank you
especially
for
with
everything.
My tremendous fear of public speaking. I just do it. I tell my children face their fears every day, so that's the least I could do. And I'm still just as scared when I do it. Sometimes I cry when I do it, but you know what? Whatever, I do it.
I've heard you say you had a fear of that, and I have never witnessed that. Anytime I've ever seen you speak, you always just speak from the heart. And you and Chris, I think it's so powerful, especially because you're a couple out there doing it together. And I like that you guys are holding hands, walking through, this journey, really as a team. And I think it shows families out there that, one, it's possible, and it reminds, both the mom and dads out there to say, hey, we can do this. And I think you guys balance each other very, very nicely, from what I've seen. And I think you've done a lot for the community, more than you probably even are aware of. So, I know I've asked somewhat of this question before, but, what's your advice? Do you have any last words on how you're keeping this marriage so strong? I'm not in your house. I'm assuming there must be bickering. You can't always be singing rainbows and, sunshine. But, I assume that there must be some type of, kind of quarrel from time to time, like everybody else. But, how do you guys keep it really strong where it's not always just about autism?
Yeah, I don't know. We're a good balance for each other. I guess, as far as the autism goes, it's just because we both accepted it and we're on this together. We're in it together, we do a lot of things together. Like I said, we travel with each other. We spend time. We make sure we make the time for the date night, or we just hang out together. We just. I don't know. I really don't know. We do a lot together.
Like, Chris, do you buy her flowers and surprise her still? Like, is there, like, those things that you guys might have done when you first were dating? Like, is that still part of, like, the romance to keep it stronger? Or is it just kind of like, hey, honey, you look hot, still in sweats? Like, I mean, I'm just curious, like, how you guys are doing it.
Well, to be honest with you, there's actually a bouquet of flowers sitting in front of us right now that I bought for her yesterday.
Aww.
So,
so you are doing that.
I am, of course. No, I think, like I said before, this isn't a death sentence. We have a child who has autism. He goes to bed at night, just like we all do. But when he goes to bed, Jacquline and I will come downstairs, we'll crack open a bottle of wine, and we'll just sit there and talk. And we don't have to talk about Nicholas every night. We talk about everything, and not only, we have a little Marshall boombox over here. We plug our iPad in and we play old songs, and we laugh about the songs that we used to love, and some of them we still love, and some of them, we think are funny that we actually liked them at one time. But for the most part, we'll sit here and reminisce about, when we first met, and, a lot. Yeah. And also, we've been through a lot together. We've been through, the past 4 or 5 years. There have been so many things going on in our lives, not only with Nicholas, but, my business. I went from one industry that I was in for 25 plus years into another one that I knew nothing about, and it was a big change. It was a big change financially. It was a big change in like everything about it. Just surrounding myself with a whole new group of people, and we really found out who our friends are, and who our family is, and who we are to each other, and we've gotten through some challenging times, and we're still here, and we still laugh together. We still go out, and we'll be talking the whole time at dinner, and there's no what can I say? There's no downtime for us. We're always interacting with one another. And then we'll have, friends over. Like last night we had 4 or 5 people over, and we had a great time. And we were up late, and, we cooked, and we had wine, and a great time. So we make a lot of time for each other. And we understand each other very, very well.
And I haven't heard any of you guys ever blame each other. I know a lot of families out there, they blame the other one for this, or they judge the other one for that. It seems like you guys really like each other, which is, I think, almost different than just loving each other. It's you really like each other.
Yes, that's one of the things, too. Because in the beginning of this journey, I had read that 84% of marriages don't make it when you have a child with special needs, and that was very alarming to me. And I think we put in the very beginning, we really defined our roles and responsibilities from the beginning, so we wouldn't have arguments, and we wouldn't have, like, oh, that's your job, there were specific roles and responsibilities that each of us were willing to do and help each other out with. And so we knew our place. We knew what we needed to do, who was going to be responsible for what. And I think that takes a lot of it out if you define some of the roles and responsibilities from the beginning.
That's wonderful advice. I love that. Now, I can't believe our hour is getting near the end. So, for Chris, I think I forgot to ask you, Chris, first how you felt when you first got the diagnosis. If you want to kind of give a little bit of time on that, and then end with your part, Chris, of what advice would you give for dads, from where you started, from where you are today, kind of thing. Like, what's the one thing you want dads to kind of walk away with?
Well, when we first got the diagnosis, I was devastated. I really I was angry. I was especially angry with the one pediatrician that we went to see who gave us the diagnosis, because she gave us absolutely no hope, and I was very, very upset. And then, I was in denial for a long time before we went and got the diagnosis. But I feel like, to be honest, I wasted time being in denial. I wasted time being angry. And I wasted a lot of time saying, why me? And I finally realized this is not about me. This is about Nick. And it's up to us, and it's up to me to be the best father I can possibly be. It's up to me to, be his warrior and fight for his independence as he grows up. And my advice to some of the dads out there would be, don't waste any time being angry. Don't waste any time being in denial. And don't waste any time saying, why me? Just get on it as quickly as you possibly can. I believe the sooner you get on it and the sooner you take action, the better results you will have, much better results. And also, like I said, this is not about me. I have a wife and I have other children. And the most important thing is to be there for your wife and support her, because she's going through it too, and there have been times when, like I said, I would get upset and Jacqueline would pick me up, and there would be times when she would get upset and I'd pick her up. But really, I think you have to go out of your way to be a strong figure in the family. And it gets easier. In the beginning, you're confused. You don't know what to do. You're mad, and all these things that I said before. But I think the most important thing is to keep it together, stay strong, and you'll find that things get easier, especially as you learn. You're learning as you go, and it could actually. It's funny because I remember one time I was leaving work. This is when I was working in the city. And I remember leaving, and I was very upset. I was thinking about Nick all day, and it was just as early in the when we got the diagnosis. And as I was turning the corner, a van door opened up. There was a van parked on the street. The door opened up, and there was a guy laying on the floor of the van, struggling to get into his wheelchair. And I said, wow, that was a message. To me, it could be so much worse. Be grateful for what you have. This is your journey. Make it the best journey you could possibly make it. That's the way I look at things. So I feel very blessed to have Nick in our lives. Like I said, he has made our lives so much better. I know, a lot of people who have, typical children would look at me like crooked and say, what do you mean by that? What I mean by that is he has made us a much stronger family, and he's made us better as people. So, he's a blessing to us, I believe.
That's a wonderful, wonderful message. I think so many parents will really hope part, and especially the dads, they really hear your words. What a great example you are setting. And, Jacqueline, what advice do you want to leave parents with? What's your last kind of message after talking today?
I mean, Chris pretty much said it. I think just have hope, believe your child can get better because they can, and just never giving up. Just believe. Talk to other people that have had success with their children, and that keeps you going. It gives you hope, and you'll see it. You'll see things happening with your child, and it feels good. Like you really just embrace those moments and really learn to feel the joy in that, and I guess it's just like accepting, but accepting doesn't mean you're giving up. You know, you're just embracing this new journey that you're on, this journey that this path you've been put on. You just have to go with it and learn whatever you can and love those special moments and be grateful you have that. I mean, there's challenges with my typical kids. I think of there's been many pain and struggles raising my daughter, you know, going through those teen years. You know, it's like there's always going to be challenges in your life, and there's always going to be, you know, as a parent, you never like to see your kids struggle. That's one of the biggest pains for a parent, is to see your child struggle with anything, you know. But you just have to do whatever you can to push through that. You know, whatever obstacles are there, you figure out a way around it, you know, and you just, you know, don't stop trying. You just persevere. That's it. And take time to enjoy the little things in life, you know. There's so many, like, I always tell people, like, write down all the things and that make you happy, that make you smile. No matter how big or small it is. It could just be getting a cup of coffee sitting outside. Whatever your happy things are, you make a list of all those things, and then you try to do those things often, you know, and just learn to be in the moment and not look too far ahead, you know, just enjoy the moment. Because that's what life is. You don't want to miss, you know, they always say stop and smell the roses. That's, you know,
yeah.
That's what you're doing.
Well, I think that's just wonderful advice. And if people want to find out more about you guys, I know they can follow you guys on Twitter, and I know you're on Facebook as well. Is there any other way that do you guys have any websites or anything else that you want people to know about?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, and also, I mean, I'm trying different social media sites, but I also have a website, JacquelineLaurita.com, and I do have a lot of autism resources on there. I need to update it some, but there's a lot of autism resources on my website, JacquelineLaurita.com. So I'll try to do more with that. But you know, we're always around. But I have an email there. People can write me. I get thousands of letters from people that have reached out to me, and I actually save all of them. And I respond. So.
And they can follow a little bit of your guys' story on Real Housewives of New Jersey, I assume, and kind of keep up with it that way.
Don't judge.
I follow you a lot on Twitter and Facebook, and I love the different things you post, and you always post new articles, and I know Chris does as well when there's different links. And so I think that there's just so many ways that people can find you guys. And, you know, thank you guys so much for lending your voice to the community, and thank you guys for everything you guys are doing, and just wishing you and your family just the best of luck.
Oh, you too. You're a warrior. I know. I keep in touch with you.
Definitely. I love
celebrate
it. Well,
our
thank
kids'
you.
moments, don't we?
Oh, all the time. I love those celebrations, because, you know, especially when you don't know a text is coming, and, you know, I never know when I'm going to text. It's like, it always seems to be at the perfect time. You know, it's one of those moments that you're like, oh, I needed that. I needed to hear something good, or, oh, that's awesome. That's so great. And I love that, you know, we can really cheer each other on. So I think that's one thing this community is really good about, is really cheering each other on and supporting one another. So thank you guys for being
yourself. Right.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for being awesome cheerleaders, I guess, and really supporting hope. So you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and thank you guys all for listening.
Thank you.